Hey, good to see you, stalwarts. Uh, yeah, difficult times, calamitous times. I hope none of you are directly affected by loved ones in the Middle East. Uh, I know some people have some relatives in there. But let's begin with our usual chanting and try to use those words to bring back a remembering consciousness of the meaning. Sangye churang soki
Sugapa
chanchu
Chandu
badu
Dudani Hepsuchi
dagi dagi chunyen gipe sognam ki drola penshir sangye drupasho. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly through the collections I create through listening to the Dharma. May I become a Buddha in order to benefit migrating beings. Sangye churang soki chognam la changchu badu dagni kyapsu chi dagi chunyen gipe sognam ki rola penshir sangye drupa sho. And then offering a mandala. You can think of it as a request also to create the merit to be successful in our motivation by offering this ground anointed with perfume and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, four continents, the sun and moon, visualized as a Buddha realm. So that means you transform the ordinary visualization you have, like, say, for instance, the sun up there and the moon and the earth, Zambuling, the southern continent, all of these transformed into how they would look in a Buddha realm. May migrators, as a result of this, may migrators enjoy a pure realm. And then requesting our primordial gurus, O holy and perfect pure lamas from the clouds of compassion that form in the skies of your Dharmakaya wisdom, please send down a rain of vast and profound Dharma, precisely in accordance with the needs of those to be trained, those to be subdued. Idam Guru Rana Mandalakam Niryatayami. Okay. Good to see you. Hi, Jennifer. Good to see everyone. We're going to begin as this is our habit with some meditation. So sit comfortably, relax your body, get a good position, relax your mind. Remind yourself you don't have to think of anything else. And watch your breathing, respiration. I mentioned many times, you can see if you can notice your heartbeat. In the same way, you don't have to control the heartbeat. It's just there. In the same way, just watching the breathing, not controlling it. And then once you've recognized it, hold it with a mental factor of mindfulness assisted by the mental factor of introspection or mental spy that's watching how you're doing. And if you've had some success in calming the mind a bit, letting go of the other discursive thoughts by focusing on the breathing. Now turn your attention to the more subtle object of your mental consciousness. Not your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, or body consciousness. Mental consciousness that you first try to understand through its contents. The very presence of which, whatever the contents be, images, conversations, memories, plans, observations about the present, the very fact that they are existent and they fade away, absorb back into the consciousness when not attended to, using that as a reason, try to get a understanding that the mind's conventional nature is unobstructing, the conventional clear light nature of the mind. It has two aspects, but anyway, the aspect we're concerned about here is its lack of obstructing contact, just like ordinary space, or we say ordinary space, when maybe that sounds like the space we see with our eyes, but the uncompounded space, like that, a lack of any obstructing contact. So if we put our mind to it, it's just a matter that we haven't put our mind to it up till now. If we put our mind to it, we can get rid of all of the negative states of mind. They can reabsorb back into the consciousness, and the habit energy, the karmic imprints for them, can be eroded away by, again, first be suppressed by applying their temporal antidotes, and eventually abandoned completely by applying the antidote of selflessness of person and selflessness of phenomena. We can develop all the good qualities. Some that we have, we can enhance them. Some that we don't have, we can generate them and increase them. And the fact that we can see this, recognize this, and feel some joy, some happiness in this, is because of this auspicious moment of a life of leisure and endowment that is so rare and fleeting, difficult to find again, difficult to create the causes for. Let's make a resolution to, from now on, the rest of my life, I will utilize this life of leisure and endowment that has endowed with 10 qualities and is free from the 8 unfree states of the lower realms and so forth. Use this for its higher purposes of achieving liberation or enlightenment. 2 different goals that the Buddha taught. And although sometimes we'd like to forget about others and just seek our own individual happiness, the Buddha advised those of intelligence not to be satisfied with his lesser vehicle teachings alone, but to strive for the goal of Mahabodhi, great enlightenment. That striving based on compassion for others, not simply wanting to have it for ourselves alone, to have become enlightened, to know everything, never make a mistake, always be blissful, but to achieve that state because it is that state of enlightenment that allows us to help sentient beings in the most efficient way, both temporally now, teaching them temporal subjects, worldly subjects, but leading them out of suffering, whatever realm they happen to be in, even if it's a human, advanced human, leading them out of that into enlightenment. We've had human rebirths many times before, not as many times as we've had lower rebirths, but we've had them before, but we rarely have had human rebirths that were endowed with the qualities of a perfect human rebirth, this auspicious moment. When we have had it, we've wasted it. Otherwise, we would be much more advanced than now. I think I'm going to use this from now on to further my ultimate goal of achieving enlightenment for the sake of others. And contemplating that, thinking about that, analyzing that, seeing that in order to do that, in order to achieve enlightenment, I have to practice the Bodhisattva path, which can be summarized as accumulating the two collections of merit and wisdom. Generosity, morality, patience, mainly creation of karma, collection of virtuous actions, and perfection of wisdom and concentration, particularly the accumulation of the collection of wisdom, the perfection of enthusiastic perseverance applying to both. Knowing that the Buddha taught these in the Prajnaparamita Sutras, how to achieve these two collections, how to accumulate them, as explained by Nagarjuna in his fundamental wisdom, especially this very special tradition of Nagarjuna, expounded, expanded by Chandrakirti in his Madhyamakavatara and Prasanapada. But particularly here we're concerned with his general commentary, the Madhyamakavatara Bhashyam, his auto-commentary to his verses that Lama Khapa wrote his own commentary to, Gompa Rapso, that we're studying. So I think this class, where we're going to be reading and analyzing, listening, thinking, contemplating, and meditating on the meaning of the words, I'm going to be doing so with that intention in mind to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. to accumulate the two collections by listening, contemplating, and meditating. I'm going to participate in the class in order to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. It takes a big burden off your mind. You don't have to appear clever in class. You don't have to be error-free. You don't have to be always right, even being wrong and being confused. For the sake of sentient beings, you'll be accumulating merit. Okay. So, yeah. Good to see you, Louise. Joined us. You went to the hairstylist?
No, just drying from being wet. It just kind of explodes. Thank you.
Okay. How are we doing? Yeah. So, anyone have any Dharma query, Dharma itch they need to have? Yeah, scratching isn't good, right? We want to put calamine on it. Yeah. Sean, I know you always have some itch there. What is it?
I was
Thinking of?
just wanting clarity on, I mean, I tried to text you about it, but when we talk about the images in mental consciousness, I thought we had said that those were permanent, but then I was reading a different text that was making it clear that they were only certain ones were permanent. So,
And I got your text, but I thought we should address it in class. So, some low rig translation. Whose translation was that you were reading from? You're quoting from? Is it Gendan or?
no, it was the Buddhist AI Norbu.
Okay. Buddhist AI, I see. So it was saying that the mental image is impermanent.
It was making a distinction between don't, I don't know even how to say the word. It's spelled SPYI.
Donshi, yeah, donshi, meaning generality. That's what we call mental image or meaning generality, right?
Versus SPYI or SPYI space MTSHAN.
Shitsen.
Because the donshi is the generic image. The other one says it's the universal generic characteristics as an abstract object, which it's saying that is permanent and uncompounded. The first one is an impermanent and momentary mental image.
Yeah, so if you might think, if you're trying to think of, uh, someone talking or someone doing something, someone chopping a tree or something, you might say, but the mental image, you're imagining the person swinging the axe. So how could the mental image be permanent? So let me ask you, is a vase permanent or impermanent? Sean?
It sounds like it depends on how you're
Is
referring
a,
to
is a vase permanent or impermanent?
it. I think it would depend on how you're referring to vase. If it's a generality of
Paul,
vases in general, then
is a vase permanent or impermanent?
Impermanent.
It's impermanent, right? This is not a permanent phenomena. It's something that's changing moment by moment. It can break, you can
But
make. Yeah, Louise. Yeah.
but the mental concept or the mental image, that's
No,
permanent,
no, no, no,
isn't it?
just wait. So,
Okay.
vase is impermanent, right? How about its emptiness, Sean? What about the emptiness of a vase? Is that permanent or impermanent?
um, well, it's permanent as far as moment to moment, but then it's only permanent as long as the vase exists.
Yeah. No, you have to say, if I ask you, what is the emptiness of vase permanent or impermanent?
I would say
Correct answer.
impermanent.
No, the emptiness of a vase is permanent, right? But the vase is impermanent. So the emptiness of the vase only exists for one instant, but it's still permanent during that one instant. The next instant, the vase is changed, so there is a different emptiness of the vase in that instant, right? But that emptiness is also permanent. So you have a succession, you can have a succession of things that are changing, like a vase or the person cutting the tree, but the mental image of each instant of that is permanent. Anyway, you think about that. That's I'm not sure I would use Norbu AI as your definitive source of understanding.
Well, that's why I was trying to seek clarity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, does Louise, you have a query? You have a question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get definitions down. Meaning generality is equivalent to mental image. Is that equivalent to mental conception? Or
Conception
no, they're
is
not the same. It could be
conception.
any of the.
Well, conception is the state of mind in which you are knowing something by means of a mental image, right? That's the state of mind, as opposed to perception or ngunsum or what is it, prataksha, right? Where you're seeing an evident object. Conception is knowing the object by means of a mental image. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Jennifer, yeah.
Yes, could you share more about the negativity part of the mental image? How, when we say it's an affirming negation, like, could you talk more about the negation? I've always been fuzzy about how that happens.
A mental image is the opposite, according to Dignaga and Dharmakirti's pramana system, a mental image is like the opposite of, well, let's say the mental image of a cow is like the opposite of a non-cow, right? So a non-cow, what is a non-cow? You have cow, you have all of the things of the universe around you. Here's this cow that's sitting in front of you. Non-cow is everything other than the cow, right? So if you were to think of some kind of puzzle or something, it's like taking out the piece of the cow. And the jigsaw puzzle has all the rest of the universe there, except that the cow is not there. Everything other than the cow is non-cow. Now you take the reverse of that, the opposite of that, then you get back to the cow itself. But that that way of formulating the of describing the mental image makes the mental image something that is permanent. Now, as according to so from Sean's thinking, what about something that's changing? Although I'm not sure he agrees yet that a vase is impermanent, or that running is impermanent, or walking is impermanent, or something. All of these ordinary things, forms and so forth in the universe and actions are impermanent. But if you have a conception of them, the mental image of that at any one instant is permanent. That means it's not changing moment by moment.
And sorry, just as a follow-up then, so regarding the non-cow, for instance, is it more like a philosophical tool, or is it actually implying that the mind somehow processes that conception in that way of sort of, thinking about everything else and extracting it? Yeah.
No, it's not as though the mind goes through this gymnastics, of thinking, what is a cow? It's everything other than a cow. And then the opposite of that is not, it's like some incredible gymnastics that you would have to be doing with your mind. It's just that it's in describing what is the way that the mental image appears to us. It appears to be the opposite of a non, whatever the thing that you're thinking of, whether it's a vase or a cow or your cup of tea or whatever like that. It's not talking about some effort that you have to do to construct that. That's just how it appears. Okay, let's leave that for a little while. Think about that. We can continue on Monday when we talk about that. But I'm just wondering if anyone else have another itch before we begin. So I wanted to just continue from last week. I read one verse from the Guru Puja Lama Chopa about the Ledan Yongmong Balong Taktutuk, disturbed, violently tossed by the waves of karma and klesha. Remember this verse, Dugnel Sungi Chusin Mangpose, attacked by a multitude of sea creatures of the three sufferings, the suffering of suffering, changeable suffering, and all compounded suffering. Tame Jikrun Siso Chempole Taido Shukdrak Kewa Jingilop. We talked about that. Please grant me blessings to generate an intense longing to be free, longing for liberation from the great ocean of cyclic existence, which is, Tame Jikrun. It is endlessly of endless suffering. So that's sort of like, in a sense, that's talking about the person of beginning scope, or sorry, intermediate scope, trying to generate the aspiration to liberate. So that's kind of like wishing bodhicitta, when if you talk about the analog for the Mahayana. Now the next verse in Lama Chopa about the person of intermediate scope. So we're talking about the mind that's trying to get out of cyclic existence now, not just to be happy in future life or to be happy now. So the next verse goes, Soka Sonra Drawa Koa Di Gawe Seltar Tongwe Lopangne Lapsum Pakpe Norgi Sosung Te Tarpe Gelsen Simpar Jingilo. So a couple of words we had before. Soka means difficult to endure. What is difficult to endure? Something which is like if you're in a prison, right? Soka Sonra Drawa Kowadi. This cyclic existence, which is like an unbearable prison or a prison that's difficult to endure. That's a mind that we have to try to cultivate. To this dissatisfied mind, even when you're experiencing the pleasures of cyclic existence. Soka Sonra Drawa Koa Di Gawe Seltar Tongwe Lopangne. So having abandoned the attitude that sees this unbearable prison-like samsara, having abandoned the mind that sees it as a pleasure garden. Yeah, that's what we often see it as a pleasure. If we could only get the ticket, if we could only get enough money, if we could only look nice enough, if we could only be powerful enough, we can, there's this pleasurable thing here, wealth and happiness and boats and, country clubs. Abandoning the mind that sees it as cyclic existence as a pleasure garden, because it's actually like an unbearable prison. Having abandoned that, Lapsum pakbe norgi sosum te tarpe gelsen zimba jingilo. Please grant me blessings to uphold the victory banner of liberation that holds the lapsum pakbe norgi sosum te, that holds the treasury of the Arya's jewels, which are the three higher trainings. So this is talking about, this is sort of an analog to on the Hinayana side, let's say on the person of intermediate scope, analog of engaging bodhicitta. So it's, wanting to get out of this, knowing that to do that, you have to practice the three higher trainings, which are like the jewels of the Aryas, something that they consider a treasure house. Okay, I just wanted to share that with you. So, yeah. Okay. So, we are starting today with on page 358 in Thupten Jinpa's translation, the printed version, or page 203 in the FPMT translation. And for Diana and others that might have like me, that have the electronic version, if you just search for, well, maybe you don't know how to spell. Yeah, the verse we're starting with here, or the text starts, Gyanagarbha even rejects the idea that these two things appear to the mind but are not ascertained. So if you wanted to look, search in that to find that I think you could search for the words even rejects the idea. That probably gets you to this particular spot. Okay. So what is this talking about? Gyanagarbha, remember, is the individual who wrote the text, The Two Truths. Who is Gyanagarbha? Was he anyone know?
Vatantra.
Svatantrika, yeah. So a little bit debate about whether he's Sautrantika Svatantrika or Yogacara Svatantrika. We'll leave that for the time being. So Gyanagarbha was a disciple of Bhava Viveka, right? Who was sort of the founder of the Svatantrika school. So he says here, Lama Tsongkhapa says, Gyanagarbha even rejects the idea that these two things appear to the mind but are not ascertained. So what two things is he talking about? Does anyone know? No? What is it? FBMT, page 203. How does Venerable Joan translate that? Venerable Joan translates it. Then these two appearing but not being ascertained is also refuted in Ganagarbha's auto commentary on the Two Truths. So what are these two? Just above that, it says, thus, one, what is cognized and what cognizes, and two, the directionally partless of those two, the Chittamatrans and the Hearer sect are only imputed tenets. Okay, we didn't go into a great deal about this before, but we were talking about the Chittamatra view and the similarities with some of the Shravaka positions. So if you have the FPMT translation, you can see what Venerable Joan has taken as the two here. Thus, one, what is cognized and what cognizes. So what is that talking about? So when we talk about all the time here in the Chittamatra, we're talking about the object that is perceived and the perceiving mind. for the Chittamatra, are they two separate things? The perceiving mind and the object that it perceives? Don, what do you think?
I think they arise from the same karmic seed in the Chittamatra.
Yeah, so they're the same entity, right? In fact, they're simultaneous with one another. They're not cause and effect like in the other schools. Usually the object outside is the cause of the perception of it, which comes immediately afterwards. But for the Chittamatra, so thus, what is cognized and what cognizes? So this is talking about one position of the Chittamatra. And two, the directionally partless of those two. Let's see, how does Thupten Jinpa translate that? He's translated, therefore, these two concepts of the two schools, the non-dual knower and known, so that's a Chittamatra position, right? They say that there's not a duality between the knower and the known, that they are one entity. And the indivisible atom, that's a position of the Shravaka school, they remain mere philosophical postulations. So Gyanagarbha even rejects the idea that these two things appear to the mind but are not ascertained. For in his auto commentary on the Two Truths, he writes, if you assert that while they do appear to the mind, they cannot be ascertained, then what exactly are they? There can be no terms for such things, since we cannot rely on your statement that it does appear. You are asking us to simply take your word for it. So what is this? This is Gyanagarbha refuting the Chittamatra view of this non-duality of a subject and object. Non-duality of subject and object is another way of saying that the subject and object are actually arising from the same seed, as Don was saying. They're non-dual. There's not a duality between the perception and the object out there. They're not cause and effect like that. So he says, you are asking us to simply take your word for it if you say this. So Venerable Jones' translation in the FPMT translation says, she breaks it up this way. Objection. Even though they appear, they are not ascertained. Because in the Tibetan it says gelte, nangwa shindu yang de nyepa mi she nyamna. So that first thing is she takes as a objection. Objection, even though they appear, they are not ascertained. That's what the Chittamatra and the other schools are trying to say. And then the response, the answer to that, such things do not exist conventionally. Stating, quote, they appear, unquote, is to say, quote, it is necessary to drink pledge water because of lacking belief. In that, the proof with regard to their appearing is also more than a pledge. So she's taking what Jinpa says is trust. What did he say? Take our word for it. Simply take your word for it. You say, well, should we trust you? Are you promising? In ordinary, I'm sure different people have different pet peeves about language. One of the pet peeves that some people have is when people say, when they mean to say, I swear, they say, I promise. I promise I didn't kill that dog, right? I promise I didn't steal that. I pledge to you. I swear to you I didn't steal that. I didn't kill that mosquito or something like that. Okay, so this is, I'm not going to go into more detail about that right now, about this. Jimpa's note 631 at the end of that quotation from the commentary, Yanagarbha's commentary to his Karikas. He says that Eccles' translation, page 99, reads this passage quite differently. So I think I mentioned in last class, so in page 99 in Eccles' translation, is it David Eckel? I can't remember. David Eckel. I had some communication with him one time about when I was translating the Majjhimakavatara Bhasham. And yeah, is sort of, he actually took some time to answer my questions. So he says, reply, if he says objection. So as Joan has it, objection. If conventional terms only correspond to appearances, they do not specify anything. Then the reply or response to that is, why not refer to something that is not precisely specified? If you do not trust, this is this word that they're translating different ways, what we say about appearances, let us swear an oath. There cannot be any real thing because there is no means of cognition to prove that it exists, and there is a means of cognition to refute it. Okay, so anyway, that's much different translation than what Lama, the way that Thupten Jinpa is translating it here. As he said, how did Jinpa say it in his note there? He reads this passage quite differently. Okay, so now Lama Tsongkhapa, after quoting that, Lama Tsongkhapa says, thus Gyanagarbha says that the only proof the opponent has for their claim that it does appear to the mind is his swearing it to be so. You know, I swear it's true. I swear that you can, you know, these, that the, so from the Chittamatra thing, that the object and the subject that knows that object both appear in a non-dual way. And Lama Tsongkhapa says that that's not possible. So the opponent is just his only recourse is to say, I promise, I swear it appears to me. Lama Tsongkhapa continues, although through the reasoning found in the Lankavatara Sutra, the Descent into Lanka Sutra, reflexive awareness becomes untenable. Okay, so right here, Doris, have you posted that in the chat?
I just put it in there.
There we go. So there's a little a PDF created here with the help of Professor Paul. Who is it always refers to as Professor Paul? I think
Stephen.
Dr. Paul. Paul is a PhD and yeah, deserves a name, the accolade professor for sure. Anyway, with his help, so this is a little bit complicated, it's a bit kind of interesting. So the Lankavatara Sutra that is renowned in the Chinese tradition, the Chinese translation of it generally has 9 chapters. Can I say that, Paul? They're in the Tibetan translation of it. Both of them are based on Sanskrit originals. The Chinese translated from some Sanskrit. In some version they had, it only had, the Sanskrit that they were translating it from only had 9 chapters. Or for some reason they discarded the 10th chapter of the Sanskrit. The Sanskrit of the 10th chapter does exist, and the the Tibetan translation has that 10th chapter, but it's quite different than the other chapters before it. It is what's called the, you can see it there, the Sagatakam. So sa means with, gata means verses, kam means that which is, so that which is together with verses. So it's a little bit like when we were talking about the 8,000 verse Prajnaparamita Sutras, which Nadine was interested in reciting, but I mentioned there's a condensed version of that. In Tibetan we say dupa. It just means the condensed. In that there's all of these gatas, one after another, which are sort of generally found in the 8,000 verses. They seem either to be a condensation of the 8,000 verses, or maybe the original verses that the Buddha explained and that were expanded into the 8,000 verses. Is that making sense to any of you? Let's see. I don't see any glassy-eyed, but it's a little bit like that. So this 10th chapter of the Lankavatara Sutra is not found in Thomas Cleary's translation or in what's the other fellow's name, Paul?
Red Pine.
Red Pine. There's an American guy, I think he's American, right? Who goes by the name of Red Pine. I don't think that's his given name, but he's translated a lot of texts. So they've translated from the Chinese. So there's not a 10th chapter in those. But in Suzuki's translation of the Lankavatara, he does have a 10th chapter, but you can't find these exact verses there. So the verse we're talking about that is Lama Tsong Khapa is quoting here is verse 568. And if you see on that PDF, oh no, I'm sorry, Suzuki does have that verse. So Suzuki translates it as a sword cannot cut itself, or a finger cannot touch its own tip. Mind cannot see itself. There is a unpublished as yet translation of this text that the 84,000 will eventually come out with. Is that right, Paul? Which I think Paul has had a hand in editing or checking over, or what, Paul?
Well, I translated one version and someone else translated a different version. So those will get reconciled at some point.
Okay, so this I guess this is the other version. The verse 568 there, it says, just as a sword, its own blade, just as a finger, its own fingertip, likewise the mind does not cut, does not touch its own view. So Paul very kindly provided a couple of verses before and a couple of verses afterwards of both Suzuki and the unpublished 84,000 translation for those of you who want to see the context of what this comes. So the point is that in the rest of the Lankavatara Sutra, it seems to be always talking about the Chittamatra view for the most part, right? There are some verses that are ambiguous, but here and in that, we do talk about reflexive awareness, that the mind can know itself in the first 9 chapters of the Lankavatara Sutra. Here in this 10th chapter, which are the gathas, just these short verses, it seems to be throwing a monkey wrench into the machinery. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like suddenly it's saying that mind can't know itself. So for those of you, too bad that Mikhail, I think Mikhail said he had something also. In the second page there's the Tibetan and the Sanskrit that corresponds to those verses for those of you who are super geeks. Maybe make sure that John and Mikhail get when they get back. You can just see that. Okay, so the whole point is that Lama Tsongkhapa quotes this. He says, also, through the reasoning found in the Descent into Lanka Sutra, reflexive awareness becomes untenable. You know, it's incorrect according to this verse in the 10th chapter. Just as the blade of a sword does not cut itself, right? We've talked about that. That was an example also in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara. Maybe that's where Shantideva gets that imagery from the Lankavatara Sutra. And just as the tip of a nail or the tip of a finger does not touch itself, you know, one can touch another, but you can't touch, the tip of this finger can't touch itself. Just like that, self-cognition of mind is the same. Reflexive awareness is the same. It can't know itself. Okay, so that was the point of that. Okay, we're going to leave that and start the next section. How are you doing? Is it making sense? A little bit? No one's nodding. I'm joking. Okay. At least something. We're leaving some imprints. So the next section says, stating that intrinsically existing dependent nature is like the son of a barren woman. In the Tibetan text, it just says Shipani, fourth. So this is an outline that you have to remember from before. So that's essentially what this outline is. Venerable Jones' translation translates this one as indicating that inherently existent other powered phenomena. So Jimpa has here dependent nature, right? So what he's translating as dependent nature is this shenwang, which is one of the three kinds of nature, other powered phenomena. Indicating that inherently existent other powered phenomena are like the son of a barren woman. Okay, so this starts out with verse 677, the Karika 677 that Chandrakirti composed. If this entity that is your dependent nature, which has no arising and is uncognized, can still exist, why would something not fit to be existent, such as the son of a barren woman, offend you? You would be offended by the son of a barren woman. So Venerable Jones says, if things by way of their own entity, other powered phenomena, that are not produced and have the nature of not being known exist, why would something unsuitable to exist, such as the son of a barren woman, offend you? Okay, so this needs to be explained a little bit, right? Unless you're really channeling Chandrakirti very well. So Lama Tsongkhapa's next explanation is his sort of commentary to this. So he's saying that dependent nature does not arise from itself or from something other. How can we say that? In other words, the fact that dependent nature, other powered phenomena, do not arise from themselves or from other, has already been explained. So from the Prasangika point of view, dependent phenomena, other powered phenomena, we've already shown they don't arise from themselves. Remember when we talked about these four alternatives that Nagarjuna talked about, that phenomena never at any time in any way arise from themselves, from something other, from both, or from neither. So we're still on other, right? So the fact that that dependent nature, other powered phenomena, conventional things, do not arise from themselves or something other has already been explained. you should know that already. That's been explained. Also, Lama Tsongkhapa says, I have just shown how reflexive awareness establishing such dependent nature does not exist as well. So remember, this is the Chittamatra position, that in order to establish dependent nature, you need to have rangrik, you need to have reflexive awareness, self-knowing awareness that knows the consciousness that's knowing the object. That whole philosophical argument. So as I have just shown how reflexive awareness establishing such dependent nature does not exist as well, so if this entity that is your dependent nature, these other powered phenomena, which has no intrinsic arising, no inherently existent arising, and is uncognized by valid cognition, because I've just proved to you there's no valid cognition that cognizes it. There's no rangrik, there's no reflexive awareness that knows it. If that can still exist by virtue of its essence, inherently exist, then why would something not fit to be existent, something that can't exist, such as the son of a barren woman, offend you, Chittamatra? In other words, Lama Tsongkhapa says, why do you not accept its existence? You should. What's existence?
The son of a barren woman.
Yeah, right, Rachel. Rachel, does a barren woman, can a barren woman have children?
Well, that's the definition of a barren woman. You can't change that. The definition of a barren woman is a woman who cannot bear children.
Cannot bear, right. Cannot bear. So you can argue, you could try to argue, I'm sure Sean will at some point, that the barren woman, before she became barren, may have had a son, but but we're talking about just the state of a woman who is incapable of having children, doesn't have a son. If you have some imagination, you're worrying about, well, what about her son? Why can't he come and help her? She's old now, the son of a barren woman. You Chittamatra, if we've proved to you already that your dependent nature doesn't have arising from self or other, and that there's no cognition that knows it. There's no reflexive awareness that knows it. So if you believe that, then you should believe something else that doesn't exist to exist, such as the son of a barren woman. Come on, Chittamatra. Why don't you accept its existence, the son of a barren woman? You should. So a little bit tongue-in-cheek there on Chandrakirti's part, Lama Tsongkhapa continues, therefore you, the Chittamatra, should go ahead and assert that there exists something called the son of a barren woman that transcends all conceptual elaborations, that is ineffable by its very nature, and that remains only within the sphere of sphere of experience of an Arya's gnosis. So this is again playing upon the Chittamatra view that this experience of the reflexive awareness is in the sphere of the Arya's gnosis. So the FPMT translation for that says, in that case, the son of a barren woman should also be asserted to exist, stating, quote, the so-called son of a barren woman, having passed beyond all elaboration and having become the object of a superior's exalted wisdom, has an inexpressible nature. Okay, so again, this is a little bit like tweaking the nose, or what are you taking someone's cheek and the Chittamatra sort of putting putting their face in the dirt or something like that. Okay, Jimpa's note there says, the last sentence is a gloss on the commentary, meaning the Chandrakirti's auto-commentary, where in concluding this section on the critique of reflexive awareness as the proof of dependent nature, proof meaning in parentheses, proof, that's what the Chittamatrans believe, that reflexive awareness proves the existence of dependent nature. Chandrakirti mocks Chittamatra's position with an absurd consequence. Okay, so this is meant to be mocking and, what is that called? Paul, is there some in Tibetan, Kejub J and other people, when they would mock the opponents with some kind of,
In English, is it sarcasm? Or
you could say sarcasm, yeah, but in Tibetan, is there some expression for that? The philosophical? I can't recall.
I'm drawing a blank as well. So.
Yeah.
Didn't the monks take their hat and like do some kind of little symbol in the courtyard when they were mocking the person for not answering quick enough?
Well, there is that kind of mocking. Usually what I think they usually take their rosary and they would twirl it around 3 times. They say, Korsum, you're three contradictions or something like that. Okay, anyway, let's go on. So, as that is, as Louis says, that's kind of sarcasm, or there's some name for that in the
passive aggressiveness?
Taunting them.
Not a word that know from regular, trying to think of it I'm trying to think of the philosophical term that's used in the philosophical text. Okay, so next section is how the Chittamatra standpoint falls short on both levels of the two truths. So in the Tibetan, it just says Nipani, two. So again, you have to go back to earlier outlines. How the Chittamatra, or as Venerable Joan translates here, indicating that the Chittamatra system has deviated from both truths. I think that's more precise, has deviated from both truths. When Chimpa says falls short on both levels of the two truths, it sounds like each truth has 2 levels. I'm not sure. I think Venerable Joan's translation is better, indicating that the Chittamatra system has deviated from both truths. So this revolves around the next verse, 678. It says, in Tubijimba's translation, now if dependent nature does not exist in the slightest manner, is that true? Dependent nature doesn't exist at all? Well, this is talking about the Chittamatra conception that they're inherently existent, right? If dependent nature does not exist in the slightest manner, what then can be the cause for conventional realities? Because you remain attached to something substantially real, you demolish all facts of worldly convention. Again, you have to read Chandrakirti's own Basham, his own auto-commentary to that verse, to figure out what he's talking about. Lama Tsongkhapa gives his own take on it. Let me see. First of all, Venerable Joan translates that, when other powered phenomena do not exist in the slightest, how can they be the cause of conventionalities? Or as Jimpa says, conventional realities. In the case of others, due to attachment to a substance, all the presentations renowned in the world are also demolished. Okay, so pretty obscure what is being said there. So Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary says, if dependent nature does not exist through its intrinsic nature. So in the verse itself, it just says, if dependent nature does not exist in the slightest manner. What Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, if you Chittamatrans believe that dependent nature is inherently existent, exists through its intrinsic nature. If dependent nature does not exist through its intrinsic nature, if it doesn't exist in the slightest, what is stated in the lines earlier in verse 647, which is the cause of imputed things. So earlier, the position of the Chittamatra was that dependent nature is the cause of imputed things. So if dependent nature does not exist through its intrinsic nature, what is stated in the lines, quote, which is the cause of imputed things, and so on, may be okay. If dependent nature does not exist through its intrinsic nature, what is stated in the lines, which is the cause of imputed things, and so on, may be okay. Does that make any sense? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's saying if the dependent nature is not inherently existing, then it would be okay.
But it says does exist through its intrinsic nature.
If dependent nature does exist through its intrinsic nature.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I'm wrong.
Yeah, if what your position is, that dependent nature is inherently existent, then that earlier verse, which is the cause of imputed things and so on, may be okay. Venerable Jones says, when inherently existent other powered phenomena do not exist even in the slightest, how can they be the cause? That is, the substantially existent basis. No, wait, that's coming afterwards, I think. She has a preamble here. Yeah. So right after the title, she says, also, what was said by the Chittamatrans in verse 647. Because of that, whatever is the entity of other powered becomes the cause of imputedly existent things. Would be reasonable if other powered phenomena exist inherently. And her note 105 there says, that's an amendment suggested by the Nalanda interpreter. So they had when she was working on her translation of this, she had a translation before Jinpa's translation came out. And then when Jinpa's translation came out, she amended many parts of her translation with Jinpa's, readings. But also sometimes she consulted others, like the translator at I think at Nalanda Monastery in France. I think that's who she's referring to. So as Rachel was pointing out, so it says, because of that, whatever is the entity of other powerful phenomena becomes the cause of imputedly existent things, would be reasonable if other powered phenomena were to exist inherently. And then that's up to Chimpa's where it says,
I don't
okay.
understand why that makes sense, because it feels like if the entity of the other powered an inherently existing thing wouldn't need a cause from something other, right?
Right. From the Prasangika point of view, but from the Chittamatra point of view, it has to be everything that's a cause and effect. That the dependent nature being the cause of conventional things. All of that has to be inherently existent in order to exist.
But why is Khapa saying that that would be okay?
He's saying that, if it were the case that dependent nature does exist does exist inherently. If there was an inherently existent dependent nature, then what's stated in the lines, which is the cause of imputed things and so on, may be okay, might be okay. From your point of view, you could say that was okay. But now, if dependent nature possessing intrinsic reality does not exist in the slightest manner, you could say rather than now, but if dependent nature possessing intrinsic reality does not exist in the slightest manner at all, what then can be the cause of the substantially real basis for the deluded conventional realities? Nothing at all. This argument demonstrates that because they assert the dependent nature to exist on the ultimate level, they, the Chittamatra, fall short of the level of ultimate truth. So this section was called indicating that the Chittamatra system has deviated from both truths. So they've deviated from the ultimate truth. In what way? Because they say that dependent nature exists on the ultimate level.
And
Oh,
this,
yeah,
would this, sorry, would this be nihilistic then?
They would be saying, would you call that nihilistic? I think they would be saying that, I think we would say that's not nihilistic. That would be tending to eternalistic view. That's the, when you talk about the middle way, a nihilistic view would be negating something that does actually, implying something that does exist, implying that it doesn't exist. But they're saying that something that doesn't exist does exist. So that's adding, that's like on the superimposition side, that's adding something that's not really there, rather than the nihilistic side. Okay, take some thinking. So let's continue just a little bit further before we take a break. So in Thupten Jinpa's translation, let me just see, right? Jinpa's translation says, so it will turn out for the Chittamatra that whatever causes of worldly convention there may be, none exist by virtue of their essential natures. Alas, you, because you Chittamatra lack the competence of wisdom discriminating the final definitive truth. What's the final definitive truth? The emptiness of inherent existence. They don't accept the emptiness of inherent existence. They say inherent existence does exist. It's not empty. It's not non-existent. Because you Chittamatra lack the competence of wisdom discriminating the final definitive truth, you remain attached to real existence of mental states alone as substantially real dependent nature. Yet without hardening the clay pot of dependent nature in a kiln, right? When you have a clay pot, if you just let it dry out, it's okay. Maybe you can put your flowers in it or something, but it easily will, even you try to pick it up by the corner, it breaks off. You have to put it in the kiln. You have to fire it first, right? So that it becomes solid, create some crystalline structure of the clay there within that. Yet without hardening the clay pot of dependent nature in a kiln, you have poured water-like inappropriate philosophical analysis into it. Thus, through inferiority of your intellect, and inappropriate reasoning, you demolish or destroy all facts of worldly convention that are established purely within the framework of everyday transaction, such as making statements such as, sit down, go over there, do that, do this, and so on. You demolish or destroy all facts of worldly convention that are established purely within the framework of everyday transactions, such as sit down, go there, do this, and so on. Similarly, you defy or undermine all such facts, such as the arising of feeling on the basis of perceiving external forms and external objects. Therefore, misfortune awaits you, Chittamatra. You will not attain the higher or excellent state of existence. Doomed. You're doomed. Then Lama Tsongkhapa continues, the argument that if external reality is rejected, okay, that's the Chittamatra position, right? There's one segment of the Chittamatra that we're talking about here. There's no external reality. If external reality is rejected, conventions such as go there, sit down, do this, and so on, they become untenable. That argument indicates how these conventions are related to the external reality. That's the point of saying that you demolish or destroy all facts of worldly convention. Because the argument that if external reality is rejected, all those kind of statements like go there, where is the there? Is not, there's no external existent there. Those statements become untenable. That indicates how these conventions are related to external reality. So the conventions of the world are related to external reality. So this argument demonstrates how Chittamatra falls short on the level of conventional truth. So there's, on one level, he falls short, Chittamatra falls short on the level of ultimate truth and also on the level of conventional truth. Yeah. Oh, something to get your mind about. So I'm just going to read the title before we take a break. The next section says, therefore, it is logical. How does it translate? Suitable, yeah. Therefore, it is logical to follow Nagarjuna's system alone. This is Sumpani, the third one. So let's take a little break. Yo. We're back again. Yeah. So yeah. So let's continue on with this next section. I think we can actually, maybe we can finish this section, even though it's quite long, because we can just go through it. Maybe not. Okay, we'll see. So the next section says, therefore, it is logical to follow Nagarjuna's system alone, or as Venerable Jones says, hence it is suitable to be a follower of only Nagarjuna's system. So as opposed to what? A Sangha system. A Sangha system would be like the Chittamatra, right? So, it's correct, it's suitable, or Chimba says logical to follow Nagarjuna's system alone. So this is comprised two verses. Jimpa puts them right together. Venerable Jones separates them with some commentary to one and then commentary to the other. So 679, Jimpa's translation says, those who remain outside the master Nagarjuna's way, that are not following the teachings of Nagarjuna, they have no means for attaining true peace. Wow, that sounds pretty, Yeah. So that says you can't find true peace through the Vaibhashika system, through the Sautrantika system, through the Chittamatra system, through the Svatantrika system of, Sautrantika, Svatantrika, or Yogacara Svatantrika. None of you can find, in the end, true peace. That's pretty heavy, right? Some people might say, come on, can't the hearers and solitary realizers achieve nirvana? Yeah, they can, but they have to eventually get the correct view of emptiness, right? Remember, we talked about that way back at the beginning of the text. They have those who remain outside the master Nagarjuna's way, they have no means for attaining true peace. They have strayed from the truths of convention and of suchness. They have deviated, strayed from the conventional truth and ultimate truth. They don't have the right view of them. And because of this failure, they will not achieve liberation. Then verse 680, he puts immediately afterwards, the conventional truth is the means, is the method, and the ultimate truth is its end. Like at the beginning of the chapter on wisdom in, I think it's Bodhisattva Charyavatara, isn't it? Who's familiar? It says, all of the verses up till now have been for the purpose of realizing wisdom. The conventional truth is the means, is the method that explains to you how you can achieve the wisdom that realizes emptiness. The conventional truth is the means, while the ultimate truth is its end. Those who fail to know the distinction between the two will enter wrong paths through false conceptualization. Or as Venerable Jones says, the first one, 69, those outside the path of Venerable Acharya Nagarjuna, Jimpa translates Acharya as master, those who are outside the path lack the method of attaining peace. They have deviated from the truths that are conventional and thusness. Due to having deviated from them, there is no attainment of liberation. So immediately after that, she begins Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary to that verse. So let's read what Jimpa translates there. Regarding those who, exposed to teachers who expound as definitive what is in fact provisional or false, have entered a system that has been constructed through someone's own conceptualization and fail to arrive at Buddha's intention, they remain outside the way initiated by the noble master Nagarjuna. That's pretty clear, right? Maybe it's a lot of words. So where he has the words in the text that are bold there are the words from the stanza 679. So those who, so 679 says, those who remain outside the master Nagarjuna's way, Acharya Nagarjuna's path, let's say, right? Let's see, what does that say? Lobo Lujup Shabki Lamle Ni. Yeah, so it's his path, the path of Nagarjuna. Jimpa says Nagarjuna's way. A path is a way, right? But I think Venerable Joan is more literal. Those outside the path of Venerable Nagarjuna, those who, because they've been exposed to teachers who expound as definitive what is in fact provisional or false. So because of being exposed to teachers who teach what is actually just provisional, conventional truth as definitive, the teachers that have taught that in the Vaibhashika, the Sautrantika, Chittamatra, and Svatantrika they have entered a system that has been constructed through someone's own conceptualization, their own namtok, their own ideas, and they fail to arrive at Buddha's intention. They remain outside the path, the way initiated by the noble master Nagarjuna. Or as Venerable Joan translates that, therefore, through mistaken masters who explain the interpretable meaning teachings to be the definitive meaning teachings, through that, they enter a path, a system concocted by their own conceptions that fails to become Buddha's intention. Those outside the path founded by Venerable Acharya Arya Nagarjuna lack the main method for attaining peace or nirvana. As Jimpa says the same thing. For those who thus remain outside, they have no principal means for attaining the true peace of nirvana. Why? Because those who remain outside in such a manner have definitely strayed from the truths of convention and suchness. That is, in other words, the ultimate truth. Suchness meaning ultimate truth. They've strayed from conventional truth and ultimate truth. Once they fall short on the two truths, they will not achieve liberation because of this failure, so long as this condition is not relinquished. So that doesn't mean they're eternally damned. It means until they give that idea up, and they start thinking, they put their big boy pants on, or whatever you want to say. Yeah, Doris.
Thank you, Venerable. Going back to the first of that paragraph, Jimpa has provisional or false. That or false kind of bothers me in that it could be implied that provisional teachings are false.
Okay. So would you have a problem with that? In New York City, that's one of the famous expressions my cousin always says. You got a problem with that? Do you have a problem with provisional teachings being false?
Well, yeah, because that would imply that Buddha's teachings are false.
So what do we mean by true and false? So what is true from the Prasangika point of view is that that for which the appearance accords with its actual mode of existence, right? The way it appears is the way it actually exists. What is true from that perspective? Is karma true? You'd like to say, yeah, karma is true. Karma is not true because it appears to be inherently existent, but is empty of inherent existence. So it is actually a falsity. The only things that are true, the only thing that is true is emptiness.
I get that part. It's just
Yeah. So it does sound a little bit disconcerting.
well, I noticed that Venerable Joan doesn't say or false or something like that.
Right.
So in the Tibetan?
So unfortunately, I don't have the Tibetan in front of me. Paul, do you have the Tibetan of that? That right there?
Yeah, it says Chinchi Lok, mistaken, day, Drangwei Dun, that is of interpretable meaning or provisional meaning. So it says, yeah, they're both in the Tibetan.
So what is the false there?
Chinchi Lok, mistaken.
Okay.
So I think Joan has put the word mistaken, the Chinchilok, with the masters, right? Therefore, through mistaken masters who explain the interpretable meaning to be definitive meaning, whereas Jimpa has put the the word mistaken or Jinjilok. He's so, again,
False.
false. Yeah, he's put it there. What is in fact provisional or false? So when we're talking about truth and falsity here, we're talking about this prasangika meaning of true and false. So we talked a lot about it before, from the prasangika, from the lower school's point of view. Karma is true. The law of karma is true. All of these conventional things are true if they accord, if they are actually correct. The son of a barren woman is not true. That barley grows from rice seeds is not true. There are things that they accept as not true that are false. But from the lower school's point of view, these provisional teachings, the interpretable teachings of the Buddha, can be true. From the Prasangika point of view, the interpretable teachings. What do I say? What do I say? Drongne, the drongdon, the interpretable meanings, they are not true. They are provisional. They're actually falsities because they don't exist the way that they appear. The way that all phenomena appear, other than in direct realization of emptiness, the way that all phenomena appear is as though they were inherently existing from their own side. That's the meaning of the falsity here. Does that help a little, Doris? Or is it still?
No, I understood the background. It was just the way that those two to go are put together, provisional or false. False might be implied to be
Incorrect.
Yeah, that the teaching itself is incorrect.
Yeah, that's not the meaning of falsity here is that they don't exist the way that they appeared. So
Well, I would hope so. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So just to say that sentence again before I ask Jeremy what he's thinking regarding those who expose to the teachers who expose as definitive, who expound as definitive what is in fact provisional or false, have entered a system that has been constructed through someone's own conceptualization and failed to arrive at Buddha's intention. They remain outside the way initiated by the noble master Acharya Nagarjuna. Jeremy, what are you thinking?
My question is similar to Doris's, I think, but about the term arrive at the Buddha's intention. So the Buddha's intention in this context, is that only referring to the definitive teachings of the Buddha and not the interpretive? So, for example, if the Buddha taught the alaya vijnana, would that be regarded as the Buddha's intention, or is that?
So where's the word Buddha's intention in there?
Fail to arrive at the Buddha's intention.
Yes. Where is that? In the verse or in the commentary after it, or what?
Have entered a system that has been constructed through someone's
and failed to have entered a system that has been constructed through someone's own conceptualization and failed to arrive at the Buddha's intention. So we haven't yet talked about this section in the Chittamatra. It's coming up. What was the Buddha's intention to teach mind only? You might say, oh, he didn't say that. Those are false teachings, But as Buddhists, we accept, and all of the great scholars accept the Lankavatara and all of these interpretable sutras. as the word of the Buddha. So what was his actual intention? He had an ulterior motive. Usually, in Western sense, usually ulterior motive sounds like something bad, right? Like you give someone smiling something, you give them something, or you praise them or something, but your ulterior motive is that you want them to do something for you or something, right? Usually ulterior motive sounds like something bad. But ulterior motive can mean something good also. To teach something which is not correct, but your actual motive is to cause that person to progress a little bit further, closer to the truth. And then you can present the correct. So, for instance, in one of the sutras, uh, it talks about the people on this long trip to some treasured island or something like that. And before they get to the end goal, because the crew is sick and there's not enough food and everything, the captain says, "Oh, we've reached the goal, this island here, which is on the way to the actual goal." So the ulterior motive there was to be able to have a place where people can settle down and relax and get their bearings. And then once they're refreshed, they can go further to the actual goal. So this will be talked about a little bit later, just in the coming sections on the what was the intention of the Buddha. So the Buddha's intention is to lead people to enlightenment and to lead people into the correct view of emptiness. That's the Buddha's intention. And so anyone who they entered into a system that's constructed in such a way that the provisional teachings, which are actually, not the ultimate truth, they are falsities from the point of view of ultimate truth. Systems that teach them to be ultimate, they have deviated from they have entered a system that has been constructed through someone's own conceptualization and failed to arrive at Buddha's intention. Buddha's intention is that they would realize emptiness. Does that help, Jeremy? Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So continuing from there, it says, for those who thus remain outsiders, they have no principal means for attaining the true peace of nirvana. Why? Because those who remain outside in such a manner have definitely strayed from the truths of convention and suchness, that is the ultimate truth. They've strayed from conventional truth and ultimate truth. Once they fall short on the two truths, they will not achieve liberation because of this failure, so long as this condition is not relinquished. Okay, so then he continues, quote, why is it, unquote, one might ask, that, quote, that falling short on the two truths means liberation is out of reach, end quote? Because flawless positioning of conventional truth is the means for realizing the ultimate truth as it is, while the realization of ultimate truth is the end, is the end result, is the end resulting from these means. So the conventional truths, the bodhisattvas practice generosity and morality and patience and so forth. All of these they appear to us when we're not in meditative equipoise. They all appear to us to be inherently existent, right? Even the bodhisattvas who have realized emptiness in meditative equipoise when they're out of meditative equipoise, these things still appear to be inherently existent. It's only through the force of their realization, direct realization of emptiness, once they've achieved the first bhumi and so forth. It's only by their realization of that they have the post-meditation on the, that these are like illusions, the illusion like meditative equipoise, or the illusion like meditation on emptiness. So they realize these things are actually falsities. They don't exist the way that they appear, but they still function. And there's no contradiction between their functioning and the fact that they're empty of inherent existence. Because flawless positing of conventional truth is the means for realizing the ultimate truth as it is, while the realization of ultimate truth is the end resulting from these means. What do we say in the blessing of the Vajra and bell? Don, have you ever done the ritual to bless your Vajra and bell in some sadhana?
Maybe a long time ago, but I don't remember it.
Rachel, have you done? What do you know the verse, how it goes? Dorje top down. The Vajra is the means. Dilbo dang sherabte, something like that. So the Vajra represents method in one sense, and the bell, when you have the Vajra and bell, the bell represents wisdom of emptiness. So here, because flawless positing of conventional truth is the means, the method for realizing the ultimate truth as it is, while the realization of ultimate truth is the end resulting from these means. So those who fail to know the distinction between the two truths will enter the wrong or corrupt paths through false conceptualization. This stanza shows how until one has established a faultless system of the conventional truth, there is no realization of ultimate truth as it is. We should hence follow only the tradition initiated by Nagarjuna. Is that right? This stanza shows how until one has established a faultless system of conventional truth, there is no realization of ultimate truth as it is. You have to know the conventional truth first. What does Venerable Jones say? Why is that? The reason is that those outsiders have definitely deviated from the conventional truth and thusness, ultimate truth. Due to having deviated from the truths, as long as they do not relinquish this, there's no attainment of liberation. Why is liberation not attained by those who have deviated from the two truths? And her commentary to that she gives the verse 680 there, as unmistaken presentation of the conventional truth. Chimpa says, flawless positing of conventional truth. An unmistaken presentation of conventional truth is the method for realizing ultimate truth. I think Jimpa's translation gives a little, to me, doesn't quite give the correct flavor there. I think what Venerable Joan has is a little bit better. An unmistaken presentation of conventional truth. That doesn't mean that you have to have realized conventional truth. So when do you actually have the correct understanding of conventional truth? At one point on the grounds and the paths and grounds.
When you're a Buddha,
Yeah.
the resultant ground, sorry.
Yeah.
Post equipoise meditation on the third path.
On the third path, did you say?
On the path of seeing.
On the path of
Right
seeing.
after you come out.
Is that right? I'm going to ask Paul once more because we don't have anyone. I don't have anyone else to pick on. John's not here. Suvash is not here. Miguel's not here. Nadine's not here.
I would say the entry to the path of seeing when you directly realize emptiness. Because by directly realizing emptiness, you then understand conventional truths as well.
So of the 10 perfections, right? The sixth perfection is the perfection of prajna, the perfection of wisdom, right? So that's referring to correctly understanding ultimate truth. The 10th perfection is the perfection of what? Well,
I'm drawing a blank.
jnana, right?
Right. Oh, yeah, sure, of course. Yeah.
So it's that perfection on the 10th bhumi that one has the correct realization of the conventional truth. So you'd like to say that conventional truth is simple. Emptiness, that's hard, right? But in order to understand how phenomena are merely imputed correctly and to see them correctly like that, that takes having realized emptiness, accumulated merit on the pure grounds of the eighth, ninth, and on the 10th bhumi, practicing the perfection of jnana. It's there that one has the correct understanding of conventional truth. So I think Chimpa's almost sounds like, because flawless positing of conventional truth is the mean for realizing the ultimate truth, almost sounds like you have to be a 10th level bodhisattva before you realize ultimate truth. I think Venerable Jones' translation is better. An unmistaken presentation of the conventional truth, just presentation of it, is the method for realizing ultimate truth, just as it is. The realization of ultimate truth as it is arises from the method explained before. Whoever does not know the distinction of these two truths enters an inferior path due to mistaken conceptions. Hence, it is taught that without the occurrence of a faultless presentation of the conventional, there is no realization of ultimate truth just as it is. Therefore, one should only be a follower of the system founded by Nagarjuna. Okay, something to think about. Then just reading this next first of these stanzas from the sutra of the meditative absorption definitely revealing suchness, or as Venerable Jones says, the sutra of the meditative stabilization definitely indicating thusness. So, yeah, right. So that note, and at the end of the first verse, Jimpa's note 637 says, the meeting of the Father and Son Sutra. So this is another name for the meeting of the Father and Son Sutra. So the 84,000 project does not yet have its up on its website. the translation, I think, is still being worked on, right? Paul, do you know the status of that? Is that going to come out during my lifetime?
Hopefully. Yeah.
So this is just another name for the meeting of the Father and Son Sutra. Remember, this is the sutra where Buddha's father finally comes and visits him, and the father and the son. It's talking about the Buddha's physical father and so forth. So this verse says, and I think what is he saying here? This is note 637. So I just noticed yesterday that, do you remember what was it called? The TV program with Sheldon, what was it called?
Big Bang Theory.
The Big Bang Theory. Did anyone ever see that? Rachel, did you ever see The Big Bang Theory? No? Don? Okay, doesn't matter. You're still, yeah, okay. So the Big Bang Theory was these bunch of geeks who were very funny. It was on for many years, and um, Sheldon was the leader, the brilliant one. So he talked about the most perfect number was 73. So he gave, because it's a prime number and its reverse, 37, is also a prime number. And 73 in binary is 1001001. Do you remember this, Paul? Did you know that? 73? You want to try to figure out a long binary number. If you remember 1001001 is 73 in binary. So this particular, what did Jimpa say here? That's note 637. Oh no, it's not 637. 634. Okay, anyway. Not hearing from another, the knower of the world, that means the Buddha, taught these two truths by himself. So this is a very famous kind of expression. So without relying on another, like the Shravakas have heard during this lifetime from the Buddha, Bodhisattvas have heard from Buddhas in the past. But once you've attained enlightenment, you have this knowledge itself. You don't have to rely on another person to understand these things. Not hearing it from another, the knower of the world taught these two truths by himself. They are the conventional truth and the ultimate truth. Nowhere does a third truth exist. There's not a third truth. This presents how the Buddha independently taught the two truths and how all objects of knowledge are encompassed within the category of the two truths. Yeah, I can't finish all of that now. So maybe just read this next verse. So these are from, they're not necessarily in this order, these verses, in the Meeting of the Father and Son Sutra. There's a little bit of, jumping up and down, but they're all found in that. The next verse says, for the sake of engendering faith in bliss, in those beings journeying to the state of asugata, the conqueror has revealed the conventional truth. This is for the sake of helping people of the world. So that's, again, Venerable Jones' translation says of that verse says, for this reason, migrating beings will generate faith in the Sugata for the sake of happiness. The conqueror, for the welfare of migrating beings, in order to benefit the world, taught the conventional. So the only commentary to that, in Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary says, this stanza declares the Buddha's purpose in teaching the conventional truth. Okay, we're going to stop there for today. So, yeah. So, yeah, Doris.
I was confused. I was thinking about the appearance of the inherently existent I is only happens on the resultant ground.
The appearance of the inherently existent I?
No, I mean that
There's no appearance of the inherently existent.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I got that backwards.
So,
But
so on the resultant ground, there's no appearance of inherently existent I or inherently existent phenomena from their own side to the Buddha. There's no appearance of inherent existence at all to the Buddha's mind from its own side. But the Buddha knows our mind and knows how phenomena appear to us as inherently existent. So he does have that knowledge, but it doesn't appear that way to him. Sort of like the example of, you know, Santa Claus. Santa Claus coming down the stairs. It's actually Sean, as usual. And the kids from their side, they see Santa Claus. So the adults who are sitting around with the presents with the kids on the floor, they know that's Sean. It doesn't, from their own side, they're not conceiving that as Santa Claus. But they know what the kids are thinking because they can see their kids' eyes getting big and they're yelping and everything like that.
I actually did that once. I came to my sister's front door dressed as Santa Claus with a big bag of stuff to put under the tree. And my sister answered the door and thought she was about to get mugged. So she did not recognize it was me. And then the kids were like, "Why is he so skinny?" Because I didn't make myself look big. And I was like, "There's a famine in the North Pole, but I still made it."
Oh, I haven't heard that story. You'll have to relate that to me in more detail later. Okay.
I was trying to say that I was answering a different question.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Sorry.
No problem. So before we finish, anyone have any other doubts, questions, points of order? Don, you have? No? Okay. Minto? Anything? Mintu? No. Mintuvo? Okay. So let's recognize that we've created some virtuous karma this afternoon and perhaps collected something similar to a collection of wisdom, accumulated some collection of wisdom, although the actual collection of wisdom begins when you actually have realization, direct realization of emptiness, but something similar to that. So let's dedicate these virtues. Gewadi nirdudag, that means due to these virtues, may I quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead all migrators without exception into that very same state. May the supreme precious bodhicitta that has not yet arisen in my mind and in the mind of others arise and grow due to these virtues. And as a result of these virtues, may that which has arisen, the bodhicitta that has arisen in my mind and in the mind of others, not diminish. May it not be degenerated, but become bigger and bigger, become greater and greater, increase more and more. And for the prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Kyabche Lama Zopa Rinpoche, peerless teacher and assembly of children of the victorious ones, that means Buddha and Bodhisattvas, along with the Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, all of the disciples of the Buddha. And then, in particular, the conqueror Losang, Drakpa, that means Lama Tsongkhapa, who is the spiritual father to his two spiritual sons, Kedrubje and Gyaltsabje, together with your Gelugpa lineage. So this includes all of these. And then, in addition, all of the objects of refuge of the infinite realms. Please bestow upon us here and now the virtue and goodness to accomplish this prayer. In upholding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you, Lama Zopa, were armor of patience that is never discouraged, incomparable, venerable Guru, I make requests. Sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, while striving exclusively for the welfare of the victorious one's teachings and for the welfare of mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace, at which point I lost hope. There we go. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truths of the blessings, the oceanic blessings of the three jewels, and the great waves of mind generation, that means bodhicitta, of the children of the victorious ones, is epithet of the bodhisattvas, due to the undeceiving truth. So this is calling on the power of truth. May the smile of the new reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for us fortunate disciples. And finally, for all of our gurus, all of our spiritual friends, past, our primordial gurus, our present teachers and spiritual friends, and future, you who are my eyes for viewing all the infinite scriptures, supreme gateways for the fortunate ones traveling to liberation, engaging as you do with skillful means moved by mercy, illuminating spiritual friends, I make this request. Please remain here long and stable. Yeah. Thank you for your patience. Yeah, look forward to seeing some of you on Monday. I look forward to seeing all of you on Monday, but I'm not going to, you know. Yeah, there's, there's as the verse that I've mentioned so many times from the 8 verses of training the mind. When you encounter, when you encounter beings of a bad character who are obsessed with negativity, with evil, or suffering themselves. They're incredibly, because they're bad character, they're incredibly difficult to feel compassion for, or you want to strike out and get angry at them. To treat that as an unprecedented opportunity, like finding a rare treasure that's difficult to find. This is our opportunity now. This is the best of times for, for those who want to sharpen their mind. There'll be times when you don't have this, there'll be peace again, and you'll actually look back and think, oh, wow, that was such an opportunity I missed. I got angry. I didn't take the opportunity to see these individuals that are causing the problems, that are full of anger and so forth, with compassion, and to see them as my mother, and to try to train the mind in that way. Okay, so I look forward to seeing you soon, if not Monday.
Thank you, Venerable.
Take care.